Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I'm your host, Chris Cosentino. We are here to talk about people that inspire, and all my guests are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm really looking forward to digging deep into how they got to where they are, to the top of their game, how hard they've worked, how much they've given up, and how they're giving back. So without further ado, here's our next guest. Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I am here with Henrik Orre.
Fine.
I tried. Okay. So Henrik, would you like to say this properly for me so I don't feel horrible?
I will. Henrik Orre.
Orre. Yeah, close, better?
Almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You're struggling with it. You're putting in like a J in your pronouncement, but it's fine.
It's tough. So
yeah.
For folks out there who don't know, Henrik is known as Vélochef. He was the chef of a pro tour team for multiple years. Not any pro tour team, a really, I would say, important pro tour team, one that has brought multiple yellow jerseys. And I think there's a couple gold medals in those years, right? That you and that would be Team Sky. So,
yes.
Henrik, welcome. It's great to have
Thanks
you.
a lot.
We've been talking about this, so.
Yeah, we've been planning it for a while now. You asked me a long time ago, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then it's like things happen, and finally we get a sit down to do it. Awesome.
Well, you've actually been really busy. You just opened a restaurant, so in the middle of the world that's complete and utter turmoil, you opened a brick and mortar property called Vélochef.
Yeah, which was totally. That grew out of something else that didn't happen because of the pandemic, actually. So it's like it kind of felt it left like a room to be filled, if you understand what I mean. And we actually funded, built, and raised this restaurant and opened it in a pandemic time, which probably was the stupidest thing we ever could do, but it's been such a fun journey.
Well, I remember when you told me, you're like, "Hey, Chris, I got a space," and my response was, "Are you out of your fucking mind?"
Yeah, I remember you said that. It's like, yeah.
No, it's gonna be great. I'm like, it will be great, but you're crazy.
Yeah, it was. You're absolutely right. It's been a crazy year after we found the space and actually went and first did the renovation and then got started. It's just been emotional all the time.
So I kind of want to start at the beginning, because I think, part of what I really like to dig into is the history of how everybody got to where they are now. And I think you have a very interesting trajectory. I mean, it's very different. How did it all start for you? What made you say, I want to cook? And then you ended up cooking on a level for people that had dietary restrictions and needs and specifics and whims that are immediate. So, and it's completely different from the restaurant world. So how did you start and how did you get to that point?
Well, it started, the interest for food came at my home. I wouldn't say my mom was a great chef, but she cooked everything from the bottom, and we had I was raised up on having good food cooked at home, and then kind of that got me an interest in getting into. So I started chef school in Norway when I was 16, and then you spend 2 years in a school. Don't know what you say over in the US, but we have our chef education, as you say, is a 4-year educational in total. So you start 2 years at school. Kind of probably similar the Culinary Institute you have over in the US. You learn a little bit of everything. You're doing pastry, you're doing bakery, you're doing restaurant, you're doing everything. And then from there you choose your line and where you want to go. So I went straight out and took an apprenticeship. You take an apprenticeship for 2 years at a restaurant and get more training there.
But you said you started at 16.
Yeah.
And that's a complete different system from what we're used to in the States. I mean, that's the
right.
that's the old world way, or at least what I would consider the old world way of making that decision at such a young age that you want to do it and you jump right in with both feet. Is that just for culinary, or is that, say, if you want to be an electrician, or if you want to be a, you know, is it the same?
No, it's the same. It's the same thing if you choose to be choose a craftsmanship or like say like a carpenter, culinary. It starts with those 2 years in school, and you do 2 years apprenticeship. It's similar for all those kind of work in Norway in the school system.
That's amazing because it I think that really must have been a great opportunity to, because you knew what you wanted to do and you grabbed it and ran with it at an age where your brain is like a giant sponge and it just all comes in.
No, so it was great. And then these 2 years being an apprentice, now going into a restaurant, that sort of changed everything, because you just got so inspired by all the people you were working with at the time, and you came and that just brought the interest to do this even more. So when finish off that, I like this was pre-internet time, right? So I started.
And where did you do your apprenticeship at? Is that something where you stayed at home and did it locally, or is it something where you traveled?
No, well, I moved into Oslo, capital of Norway. It's not a very big, it's not far distance. It's just an hour and a half from my hometown where I was grown up. So, but for me, that was a big move. I moved into the big city, a small little apartment, and started working, this apprenticeship. So that was a big thing, moving over there. And then, then the head chef and all that, he had told me about when he, a few years ago back then, he went to France to visit all these great chefs. He worked at Michel Gerard, the big 3-star chef down in Bordeaux, and all this got very inspiring. So we actually got to go on the chef was he took all the apprentices and brought us. We were 5 apprentices at a restaurant. He took all of us down to France, and we visited Lyon. And then we got to go to the restaurant Paul Bocuse and just see all this where it really happened back in the days. And that was just another world for us. I mean, I'd never seen a truffle in all my life, and all of a sudden you're sitting at the restaurant Paul Bocuse, and it's just like this trace of truffle just coming in everywhere. It's just like another world, so that was really wake my interest to go to France. So I actually had another a friend of mine who was going to George Blanc, if you know him.
Yes.
Yes,
I've heard of him.
So he's actually,
just a little chef, not big of a deal. George Blanc, no big deal.
So actually, what we did, we actually had to send letters, like a good old letter, posted, find his. I think we had to buy the Michelin guide to find the address.
I remember doing it.
Yeah, and then you wrote an handwritten mail and asking if you could come to do a stage at that restaurant. And then we did that in January, and like March, April, we would get like an answer. And that's it was
really
yes.
funny. That's really funny to think about that, because now everybody's so used to the phone, the internet, Zoom, like we're doing right now, right? But like, I recall doing the same thing. I did it twice. One to book, right? And then I got all the way there and they wouldn't let me in. After they said yes. And then the other one I sent to Pierre Gagnier, and he had just closed his first restaurant and was at the process of
Saint-Etienne.
And that's where I applied there. But then he was just in the process of moving to Paris.
Paris,
That was when one closed and the other one was opening, and he apologized profusely because he wasn't open yet in Paris. But I wish I could find that letter now. Stuff.
I think actually I've kept, but the funny thing is that you send the funny thing that's also typical. Love the French for this. Is like you send them an email in English, and then they apply in French, of course.
Yeah, So they want to see how smart you are if you can translate.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, you panic. You just have to have it translated. It's like, what does it say? Can I come? Can I come and work? And it's like, yeah, you could come. And then it's like, so we traveled down. Me and my friend, we actually went together. We were two of us. So we went in the summer of 1999. We went for, I think it was 3 months. We stayed in that little village where George Blanc is living, and it's absolutely nothing happens there. It's all based around that great restaurant.
All that happens is you work.
you work the split. You show up in the morning, you rest a little bit in the afternoon, and then you're back for the evening. And it's just like, but it was the trip of our lifetime. You know, I remember almost every day being there until this day. So it's just like, it was fantastic. Hard work, but fantastic.
That's amazing. It's funny.
Yeah.
You send these letters, right? And we're so used to getting like instant, like a response. Let's just say 2 days, right? 3 max.
Yeah.
You wait like months. You're like,
this was months away.
You're sitting there like, oh my god. And they would get thousands of letters. They'd read them all. They'd see who like addressed them properly. Go through the process. And they'd be like, nope. All right, maybe. Yes. Nope, maybe yes, right? They'd go through the process. Then they'd send you a letter, but you'd be waiting for months to plan what your life's gonna be.
Exactly. And you're just waiting, and then it shows up, and it's luckily
you can't tell your employer, you can't do shit. You're like,
And at that doing that stars, actually this was back in 1999. I met two very, at that time, totally unknown guys. It was, and they said they came from a restaurant in England called the Fat Duck. And I was like, never heard of it. What is that? It's a small, we work with this guy, Heston Blumenthal is his name. Never heard of him. Who's that? And then it's like, and then the guy I worked with was Ashley Palmer Watts, who later became Heston's like right hand for like 20 years until he left the company just a couple of years ago.
That's crazy.
So it's a small world sometimes.
I'll tell you, I was going to Terra Madre one year. It was the first year they did Terra Madre for Slow Food in Torino, and it was like 90. Ooh, God, a long time ago. I remember I had staged in Europe and in England, and I was working with over at St. John with Fergus Henderson, and there was a chef that was working there that's like, I'm going to Copenhagen to work at this restaurant called Noma. And I was like, a what? And he was like, I'm like, what the fuck is in Copenhagen? Right? Like thinking to myself, I have no idea what's going on up there. Boom. Daniel becomes like the pastry chef there, then become you know, now he's of course back. He's back here he's in the States. And, Chef Daniel Burns was his name. Brilliant. But it's so funny because I remember him telling me that, being like, "Who? What? Well, I have no idea what you're talking about." Maybe I should have listened and gotten on the train and gone for the ride.
No. It's crazy. It's crazy. No, and then after that, it's like I kept on working in several restaurants in Oslo and just staying in a business and like basically doing my time and try different stuff all the time. And then actually I got this book from a chef in Sweden, which I found really inspired at that time. So in the beginning of 2000, I went to a trip to Stockholm to actually see what this was and try out both this restaurant of the guy from the book I got, but also like another famous restaurant in Stockholm called Bonjock, which was run by Mathias Dahlgren, who a few years before had won the Bocuse d'Or. So we tried both of them, and actually the restaurant we had this book and we had the highest hope for, that was a shitty place.
Really?
Yeah. It was so disappointing at that moment. We had so high expectations reading this book and all about his philosophy, and it's like, oh, what a man. So that was a total no-go. But the Mathias Dahlgren restaurant at that time, Bonjock, was just out of this world. It's just another dimension. So that kind of also just inspired. I like I have to work here. I have to really just start working here. So same procedure coming home after that trip, and no emails, but I had to make a phone call and ask if there was a possibility that I could come over to Stockholm for a week and just see what you guys are doing, because I was so totally inspired by it. And then that opportunity was actually possible to do. So I went back there, and during the time I was there actually a position became available, and I was asked if I was interested in to get that position, and that led me into the pleasure of working with chef Mathias Dahlgren for almost 8 years.
I mean, you just said something that I haven't heard in a long time. There's not many folks that say that anymore. You were someplace for 8 years.
Yeah.
That is nowadays, nobody wants to.
Unheard of.
It's
no.
But
yeah,
what that does is it gives you, oh God, I say this over and over again, and I feel like a broken record, but it gives you a mentor. It gives you guidance. It gives you direction. It gives you a forward movement in a way that has longevity. Because that, when somebody looks down on that resume and goes, holy shit, you've been there 8 years. Like, I want you. I want to work with somebody that is consistent, that cares, that wants to be there. But also, you were able to eke out every bit of knowledge and more from your experience.
Now, I would say that time period of time defines everything I've done in my career. I would say it's like he was, as you say, my mentor, and it's like I feel that I've learned so much about him, not only just from what we did on the plates, but also how to be a proper human, how to run a restaurant professionally, done in a proper way, where you take care of your staff, how to enjoy and appreciate the people actually working for you, which was just, he had a really, he cared for his staff a lot. But at the same time, we developed, and I felt it was developing during the whole time until I finally left. So it's just like, I would say that those here are defining moments for me in my cooking.
That's amazing, because that doesn't exist. I mean,
no,
doesn't, and I'm sure you see it now as you're seeing people come to try to apply for work, and as you opening, you're looking for people that have some longevity, and now like a year plus is great.
Yeah,
right.
I think so. Yeah, it's just that people are much more in and out, and it's like, you try to take care of you guys, and really, it's hard.
It's a different time. Wow.
It sure is. So yeah.
So how did that manifest to the next steps? I mean, 8 years working for Chef Mathias, that's a big deal. Like, to me, as an outsider, I say, holy shit. Henrik worked with Mathias for 8 years. He's going to do his own thing, and he's going to go the Michelin star game, right? He's just going to pump it and open that space and just go for gold. What happened there to the next step?
Well, at that point, like when I worked for Mathias, it was 2 different restaurants. Like he had one when I started. There was one restaurant which closed, and then he took a year off, and then he started a new one again, which had everything changed. And then we took that restaurant from opening and to 2 Michelin stars in under 2 years. It happened in 22 months, which was that unheard of in Scandinavia at that time. So it was just a rocket ride. You just jumped on, and then the next 3 years that restaurant was fully booked. It was just packed for 3 years solid. So it's like you just basically went on a journey, and then off 3-4 years just went. But it came to a point where it's like, and I'm sure you know this as much as other chefs, like those restaurants kind of like grabs everything out of you. being a head chef at that place, just like, it's a 7 days a week job. It's every day, all the time in your head, something you can think of, like, oh, what can we use this? How can this be better? It's like, and at the point, it's just like, I just didn't feel for that anymore. It's too much. So I just choose to come to a point, and it's just like, I think it's time to do something different in my life at the moment. I've done restaurants for solid 13, 14 years. And then I didn't have a plan. I left that restaurant in 2011 and really didn't have a plan. I just knew that I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to work freelance. So that was all I knew for a little period of time. And then basically, as I was about to leave, I get a phone call from the the Norwegian Cycling Federation. Because then the year before, the great cyclist Thor Hushovd,
yes,
he had been the road champion of the world down in Australia, and that put road cycling really hard on the map in Norway. And it also meant that they could, for the first time ever, the national team could bring a chef to the Worlds. So what he phoned me up was, because he knew I was a chef, and he just basically wanted to ask me if I knew someone who could join them. So he was just so, and I was just like, let me think about this. Yeah, I was like, yeah, something that could fit me. I mean, I didn't have a plan at the time. Why can't I try something different? Because cycling was something I liked. My brother and both my father had been racing quite successfully as well. So it's like, it was a part of our family all the time, cycling. So, and I knew my dad had been the trainer of the coach that phoned me up. So it's like, it just felt natural thing to just throw myself into that. So that's basically where it started. So I went, I did 2 world championships and the Olympics, Olympic camp in London 2012 for the Norwegian Cycling Federation. Without basically knowing anything about sports, anything about like science, anything. So I just went in there with common sense. It's like, I know how to cook good food. I know how it can look delicious. And I think that is as much important for these guys as anything else. A good cooked piece of meat, fish, whatever you do, you serve your pasta properly cooked, not overcooked, which this guy was used to,
Oh my God. I heard horror stories from people.
Yeah. Like dry chicken, tomato sauce, and overcooked pasta. It's like, was the norm for like decades in the sport. But that's just how it was. And no one really cared about like doing it properly. So that was my approach into the game. It's just like, let's just do a proper job and serve them good food that is cooked to perfection instead of just being sloppy. And that kind of took me on to the next thing. Was then Team Sky had started being the #1 team.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. They had started like winning a lot, and then there was a connection because one of the riders at the Norwegian national team rode for Sky at that time. So there was a possibility to knock on a door there and get a connection. So once again, I did like I always. I just once again just then we got to email time, so I could email this time. So I sent them an email, and
it's so funny you say that, because it's just like, it shows our age dramatically. Like pre-email, email.
It is. So then I just sent an email and asked, hey, I'm interested in what you guys are doing. Any possibility I can come and work for free for you guys a week or something like that when they were at training camp, because they always have go to the same place every year for training camp. They go to Mallorca, and they stay at the same hotel. So it's very much routines. They stay 1 month, same hotel. All riders are there. All staff is there. So it's like, so that was kind of like a big job. And they had one chef at the moment, basically, who was cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all these guys. So I can tell you he was pretty busy, which is like almost like 100 people all in all.
One chef.
Yeah, at that time it was one chef. He had a little bit of help from the staff from the hotel, but I mean, I would say
dry pasta, dried chicken, overcooked pasta, dried chicken, and tomato sauce.
Exactly. So it's like I came in and I from there I think I spent like 10 days with them or something like that. And then when I was about to leave, they asked if I were interested in helping them a few days that year. This was in 2013, so I ended up doing like 50 days for them that year or something like that. And basically that just went on from just more and more and more and more every year. So that I spent in total 5 years with them from that one. Full seasons.
Did you end up from that? I mean, you and I have a very, very similar thought process on food, right? Just serve it properly, buy well, keep it simple, make it delicious, treat it, you know, just treat everything properly. It's not rocket science, right?
No.
Did you have to take was there any nutritional requirements that you felt that you should take or do as you progressed in this to understand some of their dietary restrictions? Because you know, there is a whole contingency of folks in the peloton out there who are gluten-free or who choose not to do any dairy because they feel it gives them cramps or lactic acid, right? That's a lot of stuff I think the public could understand.
Yeah, luckily out of those years we had in 5 years, and we had like 30 riders each year. We didn't have, there wasn't too much of gluten, lactic going on. I mean, I was quite lucky that almost everyone ate everything. But the thing is that we choose every night to cook the meal serve buffet style. So each rider could pick the individual thing. I mean, a few riders were not potentially super happy in fish and stuff like that. So, but other were. So it's like we would always have options for everyone. So that was our intention with the food. We didn't only serve them a plate tonight. It's steaks for everyone. So there were always options optimized for each individual in that buffet, you could say.
That's amazing. I mean, and it's a lot. Like the pressure of breakfast, lunch, dinner, right? For that many folks competing on a level that is Olympic, Tour de France, yellow jersey, sprinters jerseys. I mean, that's big. Like you have, you know, there's the sanitation, there's all these components of it that have to be super secure to make the team feel good and for you to feel good. What were there protocols that they had put in place for you, or are these all protocols that you set up yourself to guarantee safety and everything for everyone and all the needs that they had?
No, there were we had of course a nutritionists that were totally like school trained, scientific and everything. A guy called James Morton came from the university in Liverpool, was one of the greatest guys I worked with in terms of nutrition knowledge. It was fantastic to work with.
That sometimes can be very difficult because sometimes the nutritionist speaks one language and the chef speaks another, and it doesn't work cohesively.
No.
To have
but the thing with him that was super with him was like he was very like he couldn't cook himself, but he could tell me exactly what I needed. He could guide me into what would be the best for the guys at all the time. And so he said just do this and how you flavor it and what you season with. That doesn't add any nutritional value at all, as long as it tastes good. But it's what the base is cooked with. That was what's important. And we gave them the right fuel to the right time, and that was his. Was ace of spades. You know, he could always say that now they need this, they need to have this, that much of this. So it might sound very crazy, but like he would teach the guys with a plate and that was on top of a scale. Because the one thing, when he came into the team, he felt like a few riders quite often were under fueling. They think they eat enough, but when the performance in race, they bunk too early or whatever, so he's like, he thought, he looked at everything and their diets and all this, and he thought like quite a few guys here is under fueling, which is not good. So he actually teach a lot of the guys how to eat enough carbohydrates. For example, it's like in an evening they needed 300 grams of boiled pasta. That is actually more than you think when you put 300 gram boiled pasta on a plate. That's actually quite more than you actually think it is. So he would show them.
I'm going to use math while you're doing that to kind of give everybody the real idea of what that is. So hang on a second. Unfortunately, we are still in the old world and we haven't quite gotten to grams in our country. We need to like simplify it all of us being the same thing, So 300 grams, right, divided by 28 equals, whoa. Let me do some math here. Okay, go ahead. Let me do this. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, so put that on a plate, in a bowl or whatever, and just like take that and show to riders like this is 300 grams. This is actually how much you need to eat tonight to be able to take on those mountains tomorrow.
That's 11 ounces of pasta, not including the sauce.
No, exactly. This is like pure cooked white pasta. It's like, it's a lot of pasta.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And these, one thing I learned quickly with working these guys is how big you need to blow up the portions. It's just like, so when on race, I would only cook for the riders, right? So staff was not included in my on race. Then they would eat at the hotels. But you're serving 8-9 guys each night, but you need to treat them like you have 15, 16 guys.
So you're you're cooking double every day.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. And they would just rinse it out each night, or more or less.
It's kind of interesting because when you take a look at a professional cyclist, right? And Bob Roll and I talk about it a lot. Bob Roll lives up the street from me. And we talk about the weight variation of what cyclists are now compared to when Bob raced professionally with Team Motorola.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a major difference in weight. You look at the guys and you're like, oh my God, dude, that guy needs to eat a ham sandwich, or like 6 of them, so skinny. But then you hear this information and you're just like, how in the world are they? But it's the amount of output, caloric burn, training levels, glucose levels in their body, and they're putting out. And the motors that they're working with, like those legs pumping for how many hours are they out there? Let's just use the Tour de France for an example. A stage is what when they're on the road? You had
4, 5, 6 hours.
So 6 hours full gas. We're not talking like puttering about, mucking about. No real coasting, just like full gas. They get in, they get off the bike. Do you have to have food prepared for them that moment when they get off the bike as well?
Yeah. So this would be also a very strict protocol. But that feeding would take place on the bus, quite along from me, but I would prepare everything more or less for them in the morning. So when they stepped off the bike, Zwanjur would be immediately handing them like a proper shake with proteins and carbohydrates, like a really loaded shake. And then they would go in, have a shower or something like that, and then what I would prepare in the mornings would be like small boxes with a pure and easy to digest protein. Just a piece of fish a plain piece of chicken or something like that. And then on the bus, there would be like a rice cooker, something like that, and give them some warm new boiled rice. So they, and then they would add some condiments and shit to that. And but then the recovery process starts already like the second they climb off the bike with the eating, and then they would eat a proper meal. I would say it's almost like a proper meal, because they eat like 250 grams of chicken breasts with a lot of rice and stuff. So it's a lot. And then they would come to the hotel, and then they would have their massage, and then they would come down for dinner. So they had almost like a dinner before dinner.
It's a lot to think about. I heard stories of in the past where people would get off the bus and they would have baked potatoes waiting for them, and they would eat baked potatoes, like straight up, like load them with stuff and just go to town.
Yeah. Because I mean, it cleaned up a little bit. Of course, after that, it's more performance but it's about eating a lot of carbs. That is what their fuel is based on. It's especially different times to the year, but especially a race situation is all about the carbs all the time.
So it's usually protein for muscle recovery, carbs for and it's a very interesting dynamic, because I don't think people really look at how skinny they are, and then you know like how much they're putting in, and you're like, how in the world do you stay like that?
Yeah, it's amazing. But one thing that we were really, what was important for us in the team was that like the old norms, it was a rider back in the days, I wouldn't say overweight, but a rider would come into like a Grand Tour probably a couple of kilos too much than needed. And then the thing was like, oh no, we're going to race ourselves into form, and when we get to that last week, we're going to be ripped off and we're going to be great. That was unheard of at Sky. They wanted everyone at trimmed weight like day one, but also the goal was to have the exact same weight coming into the tour as going out of the tour, because it was very normal also that the riders would lose weight, and that was something also we worked really hard with to contain the same weight coming in and going out of a Grand Tour.
Yeah, there's I've read a lot of stuff about that, and they would say stuff like bone density would become softer due to the body just being exerted so much, it would just pull nutrients from wherever it needed because of that 3-week abuse. And that is brutal. Such an amazing, that's a really important thing. You said start and finish with the same weight, like it keeps people healthy the whole way.
Yeah, we were super focused on that, so that was very, very important. And then like every Grand Tour, even if it's the Tour de France or whatever, Giro, it's a study to see how a human, even in their best shape, just like gets more and more and more and more burnout. Like those guys go through, I mean, they're all in good shape. They're probably, a lot of them is like the best shape of the season coming into Tour de France. And then coming into those last days, they can hardly walk, but still they're a little bit better than the other guys, which they managed to then pull off what they need to do. So it's just to be on a team, any team, I would guess, to experience that it's a study in how to slowly break down a human body, I would say.
That's insane.
It's brutal. It's insane. It's so brutal.
I mean, that race is watched all over the world. And I think France is the one that gets the most. But I mean, you have the Giro and you have the Vuelta. And both just as grueling. Let's be honest. All those Grand Tours are brutal. And
they're brutal.
It takes a toll on the human body. I mean,
everybody
wonders why for years back, when people first started, they were doping. And it's because they wanted to continue to not have physical breakdown, right? They would take pain meds so they didn't feel the pain of the aches and the bones and the muscles. And I mean, it's such, it's overwhelming. And I mean, we all watch it every year. I mean, you can't say, you know, do you know anybody that doesn't watch it and go, oh my God, you see this? It's crazy. Like,
it is.
It's an amazing feat, and it's super exciting to see people excel in it and what they do after it. You know, it's like, can they go and do, you know, a double, right? That's even the crazy thought. Can they do the Giro Tour double? Which I think
same season,
same season. I think it's nuts. Don't even.
So it's definitely nuts.
I'm sure you've been there and dealt. I mean, so what was it like seeing and being a part of a team winning the yellow jersey? I mean, you had some powerhouses when you were there.
Yeah. Oh, right? Yeah. I mean, that I would say that was the peak days of Team Sky. We were like more or less dominating everything. Like we were winning solid every year. It was absolutely great. I can't say anything else, but it sounds strange, but you know, as time goes, that becomes a natural job as well. So it's just you just get into this rhythm. It's like, and a professional season, when you're specifically working with a few specific riders, because they would like pick the guys who would go to, especially also staff-wise, who would go to the tour quite early to trim everyone. So when we get to the tour, that everyone has worked together. The group is working, even on staff-wise. Everyone goes on well with each other, so there won't be any problems when we get to the tour. So then you would follow this. The whole season would be built up around following these big boys all the season. So it was quite very interesting to follow a guy like Chris Froome for half a year, going everywhere where he went. We went to training camps, we went to altitude camps. We were always there with him and taking care of him, and a few of his most important guys. So it's like it was fantastic. Yeah.
So let's talk about, you have 3 books. I have 2. I only have 2 because one of them is not in English.
No, it's hard to get hold of it.
It's hard to get a hold of. We talked about that, remember?
Yeah. So, even I can't get a hold of English copies.
No, Outside is free, right?
Yeah.
Which, spectacular, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at this guy.
Yeah.
So how did that start to happen? Like the idea of and these 2 books are the latter 2. You had a book prior to this, correct? This is the one. On.
So the first one. So this whole series, I know exactly when that started, and it was quite interesting because that's I did an interview for like a Swedish cycling magazine that only were made online, like an online Swedish cycling magazine, and they interviewed me about my job at Sky and how I got into cycling and all this. And then on that was a guy called Patrick, who was the photographer for it, and we had he came, took the picture for the article. We had a good chat and didn't think more about that. And then just a couple of days after, I went to the Tour of California. This was in 2014. So I flew straight over to, after we did Tour of Romandy, I flew from Switzerland, Geneva airport, and straight to, where did I fly? Sacramento or something like that, where it started. Yeah. So we started up in Sacramento. And then basically when I woke up that morning, I had a lost call on my telephone from Sweden. And I phoned him back, and it was this guy Patrick, the photographer, who was so fascinated by what my career and what I've done, and he felt and meant that there wasn't at that time done a proper cookbook who had cycling and food related, kind of like at that time, like something Rafa Classic looking as cool as Rafa did at that time. Like it was new, changed the whole impression of cycling. So he asked me because his wife had a publisher company. So he basically came with a whole package and asked if we wanted to do a book. And he had the publisher, was his wife, and she could publish it. And he could take the photography. So the only thing was if I was interested in when could we start doing it. So this actually went super fast. I came home 3 weeks later from California, and then we went basically put a few paper notes down on a piece of paper, and a week after we started working on the first book and the outline of that, and then took us about a year to make it. And then luckily for me, Rafa was sponsoring Team Sky, so I managed to get a book to Simon Mottram, with the CEO of Rafa, and I was like, would it be possible if Rafa could sell it, have a copy in your Rafa Cafe in London? He was like, yeah, sure, we put it up on online sell and we see what we can do. And it just exploded when we put it up there, literally. So that just launched that project straight away without us basically doing anything. It all just happened by them, really.
That's
so
amazing.
that was like a once in a lifetime thing. It's like I couldn't dream. We printed, like the first print was like, we were nervous. We printed like 6,000 copies, and it's like, wow, if we can manage to sell these, it's like, oh, it's like it's a break even if we sell them. And we were like, yeah, we're taking a risk here. Let's see how it goes. And they just blew out of the printer next week. So it was
hurry up, print more. And yesterday.
yeah. So yeah, that just kept on selling for years, and yeah, so that made it possible to do more books, and we did quite rapidly. We continued, and we did the following year we did the Vélochef in Europe, and then the year after actually we did the Outsiders free book. So we did 3 books in 3 years. So we were very productive under a period.
I still have to get the first one.
I'll get hold of you. I'll find a copy somewhere.
You have mine, right? Because if you don't, okay, good. I'll make sure.
Yeah.
So those books really opened a lot of people's eyes, and I think, especially with, what you did in Vélochef in Europe, you have great imagery is stunning, and it takes you places. It gives time and place, and I think that's what's really important about cycling is it gives you a time and place, but then there's also that connectivity to the food of those regions, and I think that's really really powerful.
Thanks.
It's really special. I mean, look at you, you're all cash sitting outside the cafe.
I want to go to Mallorca straight away when I see that picture.
See, it's crazy to think about all these, and like who's here, and the faces that are in here, right? For a lot of folks who have no idea. I mean, there's some really brilliant talent that you get to play with, and sharing those foods with them is really amazing.
Yeah. Neither do we. Well, of course, didn't we know that one of the guys became a Tour de France winner 2 years later?
Yeah, Garrett Thomas. And I know you guys are still good friends, and have the opportunity to hang out and get to cook together still. So let's talk about the transition now to your brick and mortar. You are no longer traveling around the globe.
Nope.
They're coming. They're just, instead, everybody's coming to you, which is great. They're showing up on bikes to the front door. How's that been for you? Are you enjoying being settled in one place and traveling all over?
Yeah. So me and my wife, we spent almost 14 years in Stockholm, Sweden, and our children was born there. So of course, at the end of my time in Sky, we had 2 children, and traveling almost 200 days a year, it says itself, it can't go on forever.
Yeah.
So that kind of like stopped itself when we got the second one. And then we decided to move back to Norway because something that I was supposed to join like led us back to Norway. It was like, okay, our oldest kids is gonna start school, so it's like a breaking point now. Either we stay here and she will start in Swedish school, or now's the time to move and she will start in Norwegian school, and we will be back in Norway after being away for 14 years almost. So that kind of like happened quite quickly. I was supposed to be involved in a project called the Service Course, which is based down in Girona. They were moving to start a business in Oslo, and they were supposed to open a bike shop and a like cafe restaurant, basically door to door to each other. So I got I got the opportunity to join that team and basically jump in and do that. But I spent almost like a year in that and trying to things wasn't negotiated with that landlord, which made it really hard for us. We just had a lot of struggle basically with the landlord during that period, and things could have been done better probably from the beginning, but it came down at the end that the price that we was promised to build the premise on was doubled. So it's like, all right,
that doesn't work.
It's not. No, it doesn't work, and everyone knows that in this business where the margins are as small as they are anyway. So it's like we can't have the double the rent that you promised us from the beginning. It's like, so sorry. It's like we spent half a year just like thrown out of the window basically. So that and then COVID came, and then basically you were left to do nothing. It's like I wasn't interested in continuing. I could have basically worked in a cycling shop for a little while, but it's like, why have me in a cycling shop? It just, I mean, I love cycling shops, but don't get me wrong, but as a profession, it doesn't fit me. So I met another guy who was also very passionate about cycling, and then we started talking. It's like, oh, maybe if he at that time was a food and beverage manager at one of the biggest hotels in Oslo. Also really passionate for cycling. So we just like, what would be fun if we could do something one day. And then that started and developed. And then all of a sudden, like, shall we try? Shall we see if there's a chance here? And then we started talking to a few people, and they were willing to help us fund it a little bit. And it's like, yeah, now we're getting somewhere. So we ended up having the funding, and then we started to look for a location, and then at the end we found a little location that's we were really happy about. But when we signed it, we were still in pandemic time, and also was in total lockdown. So it was all risky as hell.
I think that was the day that I told you you're fucking out of your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, we were out of our minds, and it's like, yeah, but it was like it got to a point, it's now or never, and then we just made a full gas approach, and finally, was it 8th of June last year we opened the doors, and it's been a great travel.
I watched the build out from afar. I was watching everything happen, and it was really exciting to see you pull all the pieces together. You were, everything, from the design, the kitchen. I was watching the day they put a tile, right?
And we did it basically. Me and Aaron, my colleague, we did all the things ourselves, because we made this on a really small budget from what a restaurant normally is built on, and that meant it was like, we can afford to buy new tiles, but we can't afford hire anyone to put them out. Okay, let's do it ourselves.
So we can buy the tiles, but we can't afford the labor, so we're the labor. But that's
Exactly.
But see, that makes it even more personal and even more.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really, really excited for you because I've been watching the food you guys have been doing and the events that have been happening.
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
know you guys have been on lockdown for like the past month, and I get not making it easy, but you're doing really, really fun things. Like
Thanks.
you've built a community around it, and it's so exciting to see. What are you like? How does this affect you? Like, say for instance, in the winter, what is the cycling like there in the winter? And are people still riding, or are they riding fat tire bikes? Are they still riding?
Yeah, actually they are. And there is a of course it's a smaller group, but it's a very dedicated group that still goes out and ride despite being snow, ice, a lot of minus degrees. So this is very fascinating about Oslo and Norway, is that people cycle through all four seasons here, and I really admire those guys who goes out and does that, because I'm not one of them myself. Actually, I stick to home trainer in the winter, and it's like feel that it's okay, but yeah, they're top level.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what are your goals for this coming year with now being open? Are you planning to do events and nature?
Definitely. Well, we are right now. We're mapping out what we're going to do for the year. We've just opened again. I mean, we've been open again for a week, and then we're starting off slow. We're only open for 3 nights a week because like it's January in Oslo, which is normally it's normally a very slow month, and still at restaurant we have what we call the 1 meter rule. So it at least has to be 1 meter between each guests. So that has our capacity of what we are allowed to the restaurant to run. Total amount of guests are 50% less than normal. So we can only have, at the moment, we have a small business to start with, but maximum capacity now is 20 people. Then we have a fully restaurant. So it's like that itself makes it a little bit risky. So we're running a little slow start at the moment, but we want to do collabs with different sorts of people all the time. Like we're planning we have some great guys that imports natural wine here to Norway, which we're going to do. They're going to come to a restaurant at the end of February where they're going to serve their wine. We're going to do our food, and we're going to do like a happening out of that. And also some guys from Sweden who makes this natural cider.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, super beautiful stuff. They're coming up to do an evening with their stuff. They're called Fruit Stereo. It's a really fun company. You should check them out. They produce their own fruit themselves or buy in from locally, and then they press and they ferment and do all this crazy natural ferments, and it's really, really interesting to try their different stuff. And then also we're going to continue. The cycling industry is super important for us, and we have stuff. We're going to hopefully together with Envy.
Beautiful.
It's a big supporter. Always been a supportive company and great company for us to work with, or for me personal now for my business. So I think they're planning like have a Grodeo in Oslo this coming season.
Oh, nice.
Possibly. So we will cater that, of course, and then just things happening all the time. Get people to launch their products at our place, so just attract more people. It's hard. You need to be on it all the time to not be forgotten in the Oslo is a small city, but it's a great restaurant scene here. So there's a great field to compete with. So you really have to be on it, which I think is personally super great, because then you always have to push yourself to find new things.
Always on your game. That's great.
Super important.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited. I have never been to Norway. That is someplace I want to go.
Yeah.
It's been a discussion.
Something we should look at, Chris. Huh?
Oh yeah. I mean, I go for a ride. cook. I'd love to cook with you.
Mm.
You know, we've talked about that before, you know.
Yeah. I mean, riding here in Oslo, one of the most special things with Oslo is that we have this amazing gravel scene.
Yeah.
Because we have, I would say, less than half an hour riding from city center. You will enter an area where we have unlimited access to 550 kilometers of gravel, from the best gravel roads there is in Northern Europe, I would say.
Wow. And is that all national forest or
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, and we have this thing in Norway, it's called the national forests are for everyone, so there's no, just like, you can just use it as everyone. And also the fun thing about the forest here is that there are stationed out different small cabins, so you can actually ride from cabin to cabins and map out a route, so you can easily be gone for a couple of days and sleep at cabins and before you get back to the city.
Oh, that's amazing. We don't have that here.
No.
No. We do have lots of great gravel riding here.
Yeah.
Ride forever, especially you can go the Marin Headlands and all the way up in Cosentino and everything, but definitely not cabins out there that are not mucked with, right? Like,
oh, it's a fascinating thing. They have this. It's called the Norwegian Tourist Association, and they have placed out in all over Norway. They have almost 500 cabins stationed out in the whole Norway country, from the south to the north, and you can actually buy a membership. And the unique thing about this is, so what you get is actually a key. And most of these cabins are they contain fire, so you can make fire and you can heat yourself. And there's like a dry storage of stuff there, which is all, of course, is based on that people are you take something, you put some money in the cabin. You know that this is a trustable system. But the funny thing is that if you buy a membership, it costs, I would say in dollars, maybe costs $150 per year, but you get a physical key, and that key fits to all the almost 500 cabins there is, because it has the same lock, and you can, whenever you want, they are free to use as long as you have the key.
That's awesome.
Mm.
That is so cool. So, like, for instance, you could cross-country ski out there, or snowshoe, or ride a bike in the winter, and there's options.
Definitely.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
See, those are the kind of things that are really inspiring. It gives people a reason to go someplace. Like, it's like from point A to point B. I know I'm going to have a safe, warm place to be, and then I can turn around and stay. That's special.
It's
so
great.
Tell everybody about the food that you're cooking at Vélochef. I think that's really exciting, because the food it's been beautiful. Like, seeing what you're putting up. And,
thanks.
And the view, the space is gorgeous too, by the way.
Thanks a lot. Well, we try to keep it quite simple and natural, and I really like to use seasonal stuff. I think that is super important in cooking. Like I always says, we don't use strawberries in January here, because we have a freezing winter season. It doesn't make any sense. We have a short strawberry season in the middle of the summer, which lasts us. We maybe have good Norwegian strawberries for 4 weeks. Then we can use them, So for us, season is everything. And our evening concept is basically, we do a 4-course menu, which we change every second week. So we keep it for 2 weeks at a time. New dishes, and basically just cooks what we think is best at the time. Keep it quite simple. It can be everything. The starters usually fish-based, and then we do meats, or we can change it over to do more meaty and stuff. And then what we serve first is like a small selection of snacks, which we like to keep very based on vegetables, and we bake our own bread and all that. And we do proper craftsmanship, but we keep it quite simple, and you let the ingredients speak quite much for themselves.
That's awesome.
Mm.
We're gonna play a quick game because it's getting late for you over there. If I'm correct, it's
no, fine.
We do a little a quick question and answer thing. No answers wrong. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Hamburger, hot dog.
Hot dog.
Ketchup, mustard.
Mustard.
Whole grain or Dijon?
Both.
Dark beer, light beer.
Light beer.
Brown spirits, white spirits.
Both.
I love
them both.
I love it. Beef or pork?
Beef.
Chicken or duck?
Duck.
Lobster or crab?
Crab.
Sea urchin or caviar?
Sea urchins.
Red wine, white wine?
Red wine.
It's fun. This is super fun. Pasta or noodles?
Ooh, pasta.
Ravioli, dumpling?
Dumplings.
Burrito, taco?
Tacos.
It's fun to see the difference from people all over. This is why I do this. It's pretty consistent, right? Favorite candy?
Ooh, favorite candy. I don't know if it's a candy, but probably popcorns.
Popcorn. Okay.
Yeah.
What, do you do black licorice?
A little bit. That's very more like a Danish tradition than Norwegian, probably.
Yeah.
But we have a little bit. I'm not super fan of black licorice now.
Me neither. I think it's kind of nasty.
No. Yeah.
it kind of ruins the point, right? It's like, something sweet. Oh no, that's salty. That's not.
No.
No, I don't want that.
No, not too much of it.
Oh my God. Pizza, calzone.
Pizza.
Favorite fish?
Turbot.
Oh man, I haven't had turbot in a long time. That's actually really delicious.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I had it. I do not cook it. I mean, it's also one of the most expensive fishes over here. So it's like it'll take a long time before we see it on the menu at the clubhouse, because it's just like then our and the profit margin just. But it would be lovely to do it. I'm going to do it once. Just forget about all the rules and just tonight we do turbot, guys.
There
Enjoy.
you go. Oh man. Cooking an old-fashioned turbotier, like a big one.
Yeah.
Like fish off. Oh man, I love that. I have one
on the grill.
House. I managed to. That kind of stuff's hard to find over here. I'm sure you probably find one than I could.
Not. Yeah, it's rare here as well. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I had to find it in an antique shop.
Yeah. Now I think you can ask. Now it's getting a bit more normal. So and also you can special order them from like a blacksmith or something like that. So
that's
actually
cool.
Make you one.
That's nice. The one I have is pretty old. I'm like, ooh, I don't know about this one. Chocolate or fruit?
On a daily basis, I would say fruit.
Coffee or
Much
tea?
more. Coffee. Not a tea drinker.
Or drip?
Drip. Probably much more drip than espresso. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing the difference in drip coffee from back in the day and how much more elevated it's become flavor profile?
Oh yeah, and I mean we have such the Scandinavian coffee culture now is I would say is really snobbish. I mean everyone wants to break themselves into doing the most natural processed. That's become because we especially here in Scandinavia, we like it very lightly roasted.
Yeah.
But it creates this nice acidic, fruity coffee, which I'm getting really stuck into. So Yeah, I have, if you can see over here, I have my whole coffee section is over there.
Nice. That's your espresso machine, right?
That's my rocket, yeah. And then I have a lot of different beans and drip and varieties. So yeah, it's like I'm totally into it. But I drink more drip than I actually use the espresso machine these days.
Yeah, it's been I have pour overs. I have
I love pour overs.
I've got a million different apparatus to make coffee.
Yeah.
You can't buy anymore. Please stop.
Why not? It's always.
We're just running out of space to put all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a spatial issue.
Yeah.
Well, so if folks want to find you, where's the best way for them to find you on the internet?
You can either follow me on Instagram, both myself and my restaurant. I would really appreciate if people would look into that. That's probably the easiest way to find me these days.
And
any questions?
Vélochef, right?
Yeah. Vélochef Clubhouse is the address for that, or it's just personally Henrik Orre, straightforward on Instagram.
Awesome. So one last, what is the biggest nightmare experience that you had happen when shit went tits up when you were out there cooking on tour?
Anywhere or with Sky? Or with Sky?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we in generally we had this amazingly big kitchen truck, but sometimes, you know, a fuse or something happened, and that happened, you know, you went out of gas 5 minutes before that happened once. Like, you're supposed to serve and then gas is just, you know, then things get excited. But also, like, we had this time, what absolutely worse, that like there was a couple of seasons where we had this great kitchen truck, which we later got, is that we had to work with hotels. So we went from, in a grand tour, you probably visit 15, 16 different hotels, so every night, and then you send an email, it's like, hi, this is Chef, blah, 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 I'm coming to your place. And it's like, and the first thing that happened, we just wanted to borrow a little corner of the kitchen so we could prepare the riders. And I would think that it would be, if I were a chef, it would be great if the team actually brought a chef who would care of these guys, instead of just the team sending a list, this is what we needed. So it's like, you're bringing the expertise. For me, that I thought that would have been great, but some chefs were old French guys. It's like, can we borrow a little kitchen? Answer is no. Now then we didn't have a solution, so that was the worst happened to me. Like, we weren't allowed, or we couldn't do our job. Several evenings that could happen.
See, that's really sad.
And that was, yeah. So that was what, in the end, made Sky to take the decision to spend a huge amount to get this kitchen restaurant truck built. So it's like, this just has, we need to be constant with our group. They need to get the food every night. It's like, so I would say that was my worst nightmare. It's like, there were days that, and then you couldn't do your job, because you couldn't stand in a parking space in a car to do that, you know.
It's really sad, because it's the hospitality business, and we're taught to be hospitable, right? And how shitty is it to be unwelcoming to someone into your kitchen? And they're going to alleviate they're going to alleviate the pressure on you to cook specifically for this large group and accept the help. I mean, it's just very unhospitable. It's really sad to hear that.
Yeah. So that happened, not very often, but occasionally it would happen. So that, I would say, that was my worst nightmare. It's like, and I felt very hard on it as well. The boys were like, "Oh, yeah, we understand." It's like, but for me, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Because I was just sitting there, and it's like I couldn't do anything because facility to help them out. So we would try something salad on a hotel room, or like, you know, do anything, but like comes to a point where that isn't the best thing to do either, because you're working with food and you have to treat it in a environment that's safe for food and all that. So it's like but I'm glad we time changed and we got it to a much better level after that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hopefully connect with you very soon, and I'm excited for everybody to hear how and what made you do this, because this is a really, really amazing story. So
thanks a lot, Chris.
No, thank you.